KEET-TV and the League of Women Voters of Humboldt County present a forum for candidates running to represent the 3rd District on the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors. Viewers may submit questions during this forum by calling 707-445-0811. This forum is being streamed live at KEET.org. And now your moderator from the League of Women Voters, Julie Kelly.
Good evening. I am Julie Kelly with the League of Women Voters of Humboldt County. I'd like to welcome all of our viewers tonight for a live candidates forum with the 2 candidates for the office of Humboldt County Supervisor from District 3. Candidates with us this evening are Mike Wilson, current 3rd District Supervisor, and Roy Gomez Jr. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League never endorses candidates or political parties. We do take positions on issues after extensive study and member consensus. The League is open to women and men 16 years of age and older. The League is dedicated to providing impartial information about voting and the political process. We welcome our partnership with KEET in providing this information. League members are serving tonight as phone volunteers, question sorters, timekeeper, and coordinator. Since our program will include the use of questions called in from viewers, I encourage you to begin calling in your questions now to 707-445-0811. Our volunteers are waiting to take your calls. The County of Humboldt is a general law county. The Board of Supervisors, which serves as the legislative body of the county government, and many special districts, consists of 5 full-time members, each of whom is elected by and represents a different geographical area of the county. In order to serve on the Board of Supervisors, a candidate must be registered voter of and reside in the district from which the member is elected. Pursuant to the California Government Code, the board enacts legislation governing Humboldt County and sets policy for county departments and various special districts. The board adopts an annual budget that provides for programs and services to meet the needs of the community and to achieve the strategic priorities of the county. The strategic framework adopted by the board is intended to provide a strong, workable plan that guides the county's work and makes our efforts as effective as possible. The board also hears appeals of Planning Commission decisions and considers general plan amendments. The salary is $104,300 per year. The format for tonight's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will be given a maximum of 1 minute to respond to questions previously sent in to the League of Women Voters, Humboldt County, or phoned in by the viewing audience. Questions will be screened by LWVHC members to eliminate questions of a personal nature and to prevent duplication. At the end of the question period, each candidate will have the opportunity to make a 1-minute closing statement. The candidates have drawn lots to determine the order of the closing statements. Now let's begin with the question portion of our program. Again, the number to call with your questions is 707-445-0811. Our first question will begin with Mike Wilson. What are your qualifications for the job of supervisor?
Well, thank you very much. Thanks to KEET-TV and thanks to League of Women Voters and all the listeners and viewers. Well, I love Humboldt County. I grew up here and my wife and I raised our 2 daughters here. I graduated from Cal Poly Humboldt with a master's degree in environmental systems engineering and ran successful engineering consulting business and served 11 years on the Harbor Commission. With unparalleled beauty, and community spirit. Humboldt County is a great place to live, work, and raise a family, but there are still challenges. For the last 7 years as your county supervisor, I've worked to build affordable housing, grow renewable energy, increase public transportation, and expand emergency and long-term mental health services, all while advancing climate resiliency, protecting our wetlands, coastlands, and farmlands. I remain energized and committed to working collaboratively with the whole community, community leaders, unions, tribes, and everyone to ensure protection of our vital ecosystems while creating more well-paying jobs, access to health care, increased public safety, and with your vote, we can move Humboldt County forward.
And now, Roy Gomez.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters here for putting this together. This kind of forum is essential for transparency in our democracy. And I've been a resident of Humboldt County for most of my life. I'm raising 3 children here. I went to CR and subsequently went to Humboldt State. And I started several different businesses in Eureka, Arcata, and Fortuna. And I've had a board of directors in each one of those businesses. And I have advocated for our community and for our region as a whole through our marketing strategies with each one of those companies, from Humboldt Nutrients to Heart of the Emerald. And I really feel that if elected with Board of Supervisors, I will build the consensus needed to govern from the middle and from where the majority of our constituents are, not where my party or agenda is.
Thank you, Roy. We're going to stay with you for the next question. What are your main goals and objectives should you be elected?
Bringing the community together really is my main goal and objective. I feel like there's been a lot of divisive issues and in general in politics, and I feel that that a lot of people feel like both parties in general and a lot of politicians are becoming more undiplomatic as they tout party lines or certain agendas. And really what matters to me more than anything is the constituents of my district and representing them and making sure that they're heard. I've been going door to door. I've been talking to a lot of people from Valley West to Bayside to Manila, and I really feel that that I will represent the people before anything else. So I think that bringing that to our local government is very important, in addition to transparency and accountability, which is something that is part of my platform.
Thank you. Mike, your response?
Well, I think the biggest issues facing the county and that I hear about every day from constituents and many others, housing is a huge problem for us. We have a crisis. It impacts our economy and the well-being of our citizens. So that's something we've been working on diligently and with the other supervisors as well as with state agencies as well. Climate change is something we really need to be working on, and young people to our elders are taking this really seriously, and there's a lot we can be doing to help adapt and respond. And really, mental health care, both long-term and emergency mental health care services, are something that I'm hearing a lot about, that we're working on, and so frankly, these are some of the main issues, and I have to say this is the time when we have to actually get to work.
Thank you. Mike, we'll stick with you. On our next question, what can be done to increase citizen participation in local government?
That's a great question, and it's one that we're continuously working on. Certainly, participation in local government isn't just calling in or emailing, which I encourage everyone to do. You can find me on the county website with the phone number and an email. So that's great. But more than that, we have lots of places for citizens to engage, both on committee level as well as participating and coming to meetings, and then also going out into the community. So you'll see myself at virtually every festival, every event that the community has, and including district meetings and city meetings and those sorts of things. So getting out in that space. But really, that's the way to help people feel engaged, get engaged, and be part of that process. Again, it's important that we reach out more every day, and we actually, the county has actually expanded and done a lot more with our public outreach and getting folks back on those committees again.
Thank you. Roy Gomez?
I think engaging with the public more is important in getting them to realize the importance of their civic duty. This is what brought me here today, and why I'm in front of you is I realized that our children's future is at stake here, and we absolutely need to consider what our leaders are doing, what they advocate for, and how we can bring attention to these to the issues, and make sure that the community at large is ready to understand these issues and share with us as representatives what it is their feelings are, and really going door to door if we have to, which is something that I've been doing during this campaign trail. And I've been hearing from a lot of constituents who don't feel that our representatives currently are paying attention to them at their front door. And I think that they would feel more engaged and more represented if the efforts were put out there.
Thank you, Roy. Our next question is for you, Roy. Considering new business, what can you do to stimulate new businesses in the district?
I think offering incentives to businesses, not only to come to our area, but to stay. You know, creating more of a business-friendly environment, which is very important to me as a business owner. Understanding you know, the headaches that come with business ownership, but also understanding what leadership is about. And as I said, I've started 5 different entities here in different cities of our county. And I think budgeting and the importance of diplomacy and delegating are all things that we need to share, and creating some programs for our children in schools now to learn trades and to have mentorship and have certain abilities to move into the workforce with the trade that they learned, which you know, as a high school student, we learned a lot of different trades from drafting to small engines. So I think that would be the most important thing to do.
Mike Wilson?
Another really great question. You know, in my years as an elected person, both at the Harbor District and now at County Supervisor, and as a business owner, previous business owner myself, I had a lot of experience around developing businesses and keeping them here. And so, you know, we often usually used to hear from business owners about permit streamlining and maybe incentives, those sorts of things. That conversation has shifted quite a bit. What we hear a lot from our business owners these days is housing affordability for their workforce, healthcare availability for their workforce, childcare availability for their workforce. That is the things that I hear the most from our business community, and workforce training. And the county's working on all of those things, and I can tell you that's definitely all those are on the forefront of my daily work.
Thank you, Mike. Our next question has to do with Measure A. Both candidates oppose Measure A. We know that. What do you feel is the biggest flaw? Where do you feel the proponents went wrong within the writing?
It's true. I have taken a position against Measure A. I voted against the current ordinance, cannabis ordinance, because I thought it didn't go far enough from an environmental perspective. So I think there is room for improvement from an environmental perspective. However, this isn't the vehicle to do it. It's unfortunately, the process by which this was created does not have a lot of public input, doesn't have input from or consultation with agencies, public agencies, environmental groups, or tribes. It's very important that this have all those things. Now, I could pick out a few pieces of this that I think are actually probably okay, but it's 31 pages of changes, permanent changes to our general plan and ordinances that I feel like will not only make it harder for existing operators, but also lead to lawsuits.
Thank you. Roy Gomez, your response?
I think where Measure A went wrong is failing to recognize how disadvantaged our cannabis farmers have been since the beginning, really considering that the infrastructure, the labor force, and the market really is closer to those mega farms in Salinas and Monterey, all over Oxnard and Santa Barbara. And Measure A was just a kick a person when it's down scenario. And you know, considering that we have, farmers would have to scale down to 10,000 square foot, just is not really considering the disadvantage that they're already in and all the taxes they have to pay. Taxes like Measure S, which, you know, a lot of the farmers came to the Board of Supervisors asking for relief to Measure S, and Mike was the only one that voted against showing these farmers relief at a time where they could not survive. And he's also advocated for increasing Measure S by 10%. And I'll advocate for the farmers to absolutely rescind it.
Thank you, Roy. We'll continue with the next question with you, Roy. What experience do you have with working with local tribes?
I have a lot of Karuk, Yurok. On a personal level, I have a lot of friends that are tribal, and working with them has been, you know, something that I've done as a retailer, as a wholesaler, as somebody who helped people gain knowledge on farming in general through my retail shops. And working with farmers, or excuse me, working with tribes is something that I look forward to doing, and maybe we can definitely find a better way to represent the tribes and their concerns as a board, and make sure that they're properly represented and advocate for tribal significance. And I think it's important that we see that this is their ancestral territory, and make sure that they're given that respect and consideration.
Thank you. Mike, your response?
This is another these great questions. I really appreciate this. Humboldt County is unique in that it both has the largest tribe and the largest reservation in the state of California. It also has, I believe, probably the most of any county. And so, and by the most, I mean the most individual tribal organizations. And so, this is a place we have to take this really seriously. And I've advocated very, very strongly for the county to have a tribal liaison. My experience specifically as a consultant and as an engineer, I worked both for the Wiyot tribe in the Tuluwat restoration project, as well as the first land back project for them. I worked for the Yurok tribe in the establishment of their water quality program. I worked for Bear River as well, and in part of their environmental program. So I've done a lot of work with tribes at the county level and in both at the Harbor District, working very much with tribes and getting their representation in everything that we do.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, your district experienced some extreme flooding in recent weeks. What can be done to mitigate this problem?
That's a great question. You know, there's the flooding that we've received or that's happened here in Humboldt County in these last storms are both a combination of extreme storm events and sort of land use issues that are longstanding. And so we have to both restore our watersheds so that they're able to maintain themselves in these extreme events, and we also have to be prepared in terms of our planning. And so we have to make sure that we're not putting developments in waterways and those sorts of things. Also, we're still getting flooding in Blue Lake area as well as Jacoby Creek, and we're just going to have to be working harder to work with other agencies as well as our local tribes to get these things sorted out.
Thank you, Mike. Roy, your response?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Definitely. Your district experienced some extreme flooding in recent weeks. What can be done to mitigate this problem?
I think more importantly, the most important thing is to do a deep dive and analyze where our infrastructure is and where we're able to allocate funds to that infrastructure, and make sure that the communities of our district feel that we're effectively advocating for them and creating the resources and fostering the relationship between our communities and the state, and being the liaison between that, and making sure that FEMA funds come through and funding is really pushed for with our state representatives, and making sure that they recognize that we live in a temperate rainforest. So this type of flooding is most likely going to continue on occurring, if not getting worse. So we definitely need to make sure that our infrastructure is ready for that, and we need to start spending the money on that infrastructure as well.
Thank you, Roy. And our next question, Roy Gomez. Where should the county prioritize their environmental and wildlife restoration efforts?
This is a very important question, because I feel that there's definitely some big projects on the horizon here. I'm sure we'll speak to one of them being the wind farm, which I'm definitely in support of any kind of project that searches and engages in the potential of clean energy and facilitating clean energy from our natural resources. But I'm also very much so want to take caution as these types of projects have never been done on the scale that they're being considered now. And $470 million is a lot of money, a lot of jobs, but that is our ecology, our oceans, and our wildlife that we have to consider. So I would advocate for testing and making sure that the environmental impact report is done by some real professionals and world-renowned scientists.
Thank you. Mike, your response?
Repeat the question, please.
Definitely. Where should the county prioritize their environmental and wildlife restoration efforts?
Great question. I'll try and answer this directly, which is, I want to speak a little bit to the past. We've had a great success. This county advocated very strongly for the removal of the Klamath dams, and I'm proud to have been a part of that, a small part of that. You know, really, the tribes were just leading the charge. I'm so proud of everyone working on that. We now have the removal of the Eel River dams coming, so that's I think a priority for us. We have estuary or restoration around Humboldt Bay, which is also extremely important. I think that what we see every time we do just a little bit of work in there, the species return is just immense, and I think that's amazing. Our watersheds are important, but also our forest management is something we gotta we're working on. We're seeing a lot more of cultural burning and biomass management through fire. I think that that's something that we're going to see a lot more of in order to control fires and have a healthier environment.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, considering offshore wind, in regards to the wind farm, are you for or against it? And who will be responsible for the security for those $1 million assets?
Well, it's something. This is an issue that I've been dealing a lot with, both at the county level, at the state level, and as a commissioner on the California Coastal Commission. And I'll say that this is a big project. It's has the potential of having some very significant impacts, both positive and negative. The point of it is to address something even larger, which is climate change and decarbonizing our energy sources, and that's very important too. I'm committed to working to leverage every benefit we can derive from this, whether it's jobs, infrastructure, housing, whatever it can be, and to minimize every potential impact that we could possibly have, both environmentally and socially and culturally. Work with tribes, local leaders, state agencies, and everybody to get to that place where we have the most benefit for our community.
Thank you. Roy Gomez, your response?
Well, as I said before, working towards innovative ways to provide renewable energy is definitely would be in my agenda, and I feel that in doing so that we really need to look at all the potentials of such a large project like the wind farm. The largest turbines in the deepest waters of anywhere in the world will be used. I mean, one of the actual turbines themselves will be the size of a semi-truck. And they'll be in the deepest waters, and the potential for that to affect our wildlife and the whales, birds, migratory birds. I really feel that we need to be cautious about anything that is experimental. You know, we live in such a delicate ecosystem that something like this could be detrimental, but could also bring some very positive results as well. So testing is what I really want, and making sure that there is an environmental impact report done by independent researchers and professionals from all over the world.
Okay. Roy, we're going to stay with you. Childcare. What will you do to help control the cost of childcare?
Well, one of the things we experienced during COVID, it was a lot of our workforce, especially women, you know, had to fall out of our workforce, and part of the reason why is because childcare was difficult and the availability of it, and the ability to afford it. And I will work with the state on providing grants. I'm a father of 3, and I know what it takes for a mother to raise children correctly and make sure that they're well attended to and well educated. And child care is absolutely important, and I will advocate for grants to be provided to our mothers and our fathers, for that matter, who need that assistance, and our kids are absolutely worth fighting for and worth generating that grant.
Thank you. Mike, your response?
Well, there's been some data on this recently, and I have to say, like, as a father of 2 kids who have been through the school system here, actually one's still at Arcata High, I want to say childcare was a very big challenge for us as parents, and I see that for working parents everywhere. 80% of Humboldt County parents who were part of a survey said this was an extremely stressful situation for them. In 2020, a third of our childcare facilities closed. They closed mainly because of COVID, but it became very, very challenging. And in response, our board prioritized childcare and created the Humboldt County Childcare Fund. For $4.8 million of our ARPA funds were set aside to help build these facilities, help fund them, and help get them restarted.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, our next question's on mental health. What needs improvement in Humboldt County in regards to mental health care? What do you plan to do about it?
Great question, and as I mentioned before, I think we hear a lot about this. It impacts everybody. Mental health issues are in families everywhere, and not just in Humboldt County, but nationwide. The parts, I mean, there's a whole spectrum of things we could be working on, but the parts that I focus the most on are the two projects that the county's been working on. One is Sorrel House, which is a youth facility right now with 12 beds. Right now, the youth have to be sent out of the area if they're having any kind of crisis. We don't really have a place to do that, and so we're going to start that facility pretty soon. And then next, also hoping to get a crisis center built. We're really working very hard with Mad River Hospital. We've set aside more than $1 million to get that started. And I believe that'll be very helpful because it'll help relieve a lot of the stress on our emergency rooms and families in crises.
Thank you, Mike. Roy Gomez.
I think it's important to approach this issue through the lens of empathy and expertise. I would advocate that our county form partnerships with shelters and local service providers and encourage collaboration between law enforcement and community organizations, and making sure to meet people where their level of mental illness really is. And I feel that there's a lot of layers and complexities to this issue, but finding relativity in mental health issues with drug abuse as well as homelessness, and making sure that we recognize that there's relativity in those in all of those issues, but really bring it back together and make sure that that we have services that anybody with any level of mental health feels comfortable going and reaching out to.
Thank you, Roy. Roy, we'll stay with you. What can county government do to attract medical professionals to our area?
I think the most important thing is to provide housing. Having housing and other incentives for the workforce in this department really needs to be advocated for. I think it's important that we have certain grants that are available to our community that we can advocate for, and make sure that there is grants being written that will help retain our talent, and utilizing resources. I've actually done a deep dive on this. There's California Health Facility Finance Authority, which offers a grant for this specific reason, and California Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development also offers a grant for this specific reason. So as your district supervisor, I will make sure that those grants get written and that funding is received.
Thank you, Roy. Mike, your response?
Yep, I think it's a great question, and I concur that housing is a big issue for attracting and retaining medical professionals. One of the biggest issues we have is just workforce housing in general. And workforce housing at the state and federal level, it only qualifies for teachers and ag workers currently. And so I've been advocating at the state level to add medical workforce as well to this, and other workforce to expand on how we define workforce housing, so that we can avail of those same opportunities, both through funding through the state and through the feds. That's very important. And it's not just doctors. It's the support staff. So for every doctor or professional in that level, you have 7 support staff that qualify for affordable housing. And so really working on our affordable housing stock will help this immensely.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, we'll stick with you. Concerning public transportation, how can you improve public transportation in the 3rd District?
That's a great question. Well, the best way to improve public transportation is just to increase frequency and service. We do that by increasing ridership, and it's sort of like, chicken and egg sort of situation there, but also in bringing in programs that help with that. We've had some issues lately around the city of Blue Lake losing service when the Rancheria stopped their bus service, and when I say we, the Humboldt Transit Authority, of which I'm a member of, we immediately had a bus stop through that space, through Blue Lake, to deal with that. We are also expanded long-range bus services. So we now have bus services to both Santa Rosa and Martinez that go intercity, and that's happened in the last few years, and that's something I advocated very strongly for. And now we're even getting into hydrogen fuel buses as well. But more than that, we're going to be working with the city of Arcata more to expand bus service and more between Arcata and Eureka specifically for the 3rd District.
Thank you, Mike. Roy, your response?
I think this is a very important issue. Transportation in our community is definitely one of the sticking points in regards to affordable housing units and different developments that are being created with exemptions that don't allow for handicap or minimize it. Not that they don't allow it, they minimize parking for handicap for businesses, employees. So I want to make sure that we are very much so building affordable housing in respects and consideration of elderly, handicapped, business owners, tourists, population growth, and making sure that we're not forcing people into a situation where they're totally dependent on transportation as opposed to just getting in their cars and driving, which I think there should be an equal balance to that in our community.
Thank you, Roy. Roy, our next question is, what are you doing or what's being done to support the oyster farmers and keep the bay clean?
I think one of the most important aspects of keeping the bay clean and vibrant for oyster farmers and other wildlife is to be the best stewards of the land that we possibly can be. And I'll take this back to the wind farm issue, because this really is an issue that could potentially offset that. And I want to make sure that whatever is being done on any scale, especially on a large scale in our community and off the harbor or in our bay, doesn't affect our livelihood of oyster farmers, of crabbers and fishermen. So I think making sure that we maintain a high level of stewardship for our bay and for our industries that depend on it is going to be my objective in making sure that we go on with caution. Progress needs some caution.
Thank you, Roy. Mike, your response?
Yeah, well, I've always been a big supporter of aquaculture and oyster farming in Humboldt Bay. Humboldt Bay is the largest producer of oysters in the state of California. Most of those are produced in the 3rd District, and so it's a group of folks that work very hard, are very smart, and just really a wonderful group of people, and great stewards. When I was on the Harbor District, we did pre-permitting, so we were able to streamline permitting for the creation of more oyster farms on Humboldt Bay, and so that was very helpful. Stewardship is extremely important. The biggest threats to oyster farming is water quality, both from point sources, what I mean by that is like sewer treatment plants and those sorts of things, but also non-point, which also means stormwater, which is the runoff from our streets and roads and those sorts of things. And so how we develop, how we regulate those things is very, very important. We've been doing a very good job, but I want to say oyster farmers themselves have been wonderful advocates, and we need to do what we can to support them.
Thank you, Mike. Now concerning fire resilience, Mike. What can be done to enhance fire resiliency throughout the county and in your district?
That's a great question and a really tough one. We have lived, from a colonial perspective. Before a settlement, European settlement, the land was managed intensively by people that were here, by native folks that were burning and maintaining these biomass on the landscape. And that stopped, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, and then the lands were subdivided, making management through fire impossible or very, very difficult for a very long time. And now we're just getting back into that. I think, and the county's been a leader in regional efforts around that, certainly through our Public Works Department and our staff there, working with other agencies to really promote this sort of new land management, actually old land management, original land management, and getting it back to where it needs to be.
Thank you, Mike. Roy?
I think it's important to support our fire districts and our firehouses and making sure that they're equipped for the future. There's a lot of advocating for density in 7-story buildings in our district, and we really need to make sure that our fire and other infrastructure are ready for that. And what concerns me about 7-story buildings and talking to different fire departments in our district is that they're not equipped to go up 7 stories, and they've made this pretty apparent. So making sure that the fire departments of our community are funded, and making sure that they're not going out of their district without being compensated in areas where the county is more responsible for that, and this happens in certain areas between Blue Lake and Willow Creek. So making sure that they're properly funded is going to be part of my agenda.
Thank you, Roy. Considering housing, what do you think of housing development near Indianola Cutoff? Is there another area in your district that could be used for housing?
Well, I think housing is not a one-size-fits-all in California. I mean, we live in a real rural community, and there are a lot of flood zones and a lot of exemptions offered by this mandate for affordable housing. And I feel that it's important to build affordable housing next to market rate housing, and making sure that that is advocated for, because it's important for diversity and inclusivity for these developments to have both of those. And as a representative, I will work to make sure that there's down payment assistance programs for people who want to get into affordable housing, because that's always been one of the biggest hurdles for anybody trying to buy a home, and making sure that there's low interest loans as well, because that really is something makes it very difficult with these high interest rates. So advocating for these in our community and for anybody who wants to live in District 3 is what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Roy. Mike, your response?
Specifically, the Indianola area is challenging for housing development of what's being proposed, mostly because there's not a wastewater facility in that space, and I'm not really sure about the water hookups as well. There's also challenges around connectivity through public transit and those sorts of things. So there are some challenges to that concept. I still would encourage developers to be looking for affordable housing where we can put it. It's important that housing in general, as much as we can, be near services and utilities and those sorts of things, so that that they can be serviced and that people have the ability to access public amenities and be able to get to where they need to go in a reasonable fashion.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Wilson, communication services again. What can be done to meet the needs for reliable communication services throughout this county?
Well, getting more reliable communication service. Well, we're talking about emergency services. The county, both through funding through Measure Z and some other sources, is working on with the Sheriff's Department and OES to completely upgrade our radio systems, our emergency radio systems. This is very important. Right now, it's a bit, it has challenges. Let's just put it that way. And we need to do what we can to get to adapt to that. We are also having challenges around AT&T wanting to cut landlines, and the county is going to fight that, and as well as other counties and other rural jurisdictions. We need to work with tribes and other organizations to get to the last mile, those connectivities in those places for broadband. I think we've been a leader in rural broadband, and we'll just have to continue working on those things. It's kind of never ending.
Thank you, Mike. Roy, your answer?
I think communication is obviously key in any situation, in any relationships or people who live in rural Humboldt County, and making sure that our infrastructure is prepared to increase our fiber optic lines, making sure those jobs stay here also, and making sure that communication is looked at as a key element to connectivity amongst our rural community. So making sure that we have, I actually sat in on a meeting where this topic came up in regards to them potentially cutting off the landlines to some of the rural communities in southern Humboldt. And I really sympathize with the people that live there who don't have the cell service that we do in town. And if they're cut off from the world, and how are we ever going to provide them with the necessary services without that in place? So I really advocate for not doing that.
Thank you, Roy. Roy, we'll stay with you. Are you in favor of homeless encampment sweeps? If so, how should they be conducted? If not, please explain.
I don't think that I would be in favor of the sweep in general as much as I would be with relocating. Sweep is kind of has a negative connotation to it, and I feel that if the right people are on the ground meeting with homeless people and figuring out if they want help, need help, and if they know where the services are that can help them, and understanding what they're going through. And this isn't a law enforcement issue. This is really again, a mental health issue and a social welfare issue that we need to understand. That there is a lot of people that live in these encampments that that really don't want to, and making sure that these so-called sweeps are occurring, but without the law enforcement element, and with the county using funds to create and keep a task force in there, which we just lost one of those. So.
Thank you, Roy. Mike, your answer?
Well, fundamentally, we just need to be providing more services. As everybody knows, the availability of funding is limited, both from the state and federal government and locally. And we tend to debate about the strategy of our response, but with limited resources. This is why I support the work of Arcata House and the services that they provide, both keeping people in homes, but also in their safe parking program, which has been very successful. Folks in the safe parking program, many of them work, some of them go to school, and it's been very successful in moving people back into housing. As well as the wraparound services provided by Arcata House at the Grove has immensely reduced the amount of service or required by the police and by our emergency rooms, and so I'm very supportive of that.
Thank you, Mike. We're actually just going to stick with homelessness. Mike, how would you continue to address the problem of homelessness countywide and in your district?
Yeah, and emphasizing what I just did. So, yeah, again, these services are very, very important. I want to give sort of a little shout out to the City of Arcata in the efforts that they've been putting out there. I'll tell you, I travel around the state quite a bit, and our DHHS services, our Department of Health and Human Services, working with both the city and Arcata House, provide a lot of services and a lot of success stories. Is there still challenges? Oh yeah. I mean, there's going to be work to do for a long, long time, and we need to address this, both those services, but also providing housing. I mean, the cost of housing is so high that it's causing insecurity and putting people onto the streets. And more specifically, the fastest growing homeless population for Humboldt County and many other places is our elders. Fixed incomes are not working well with the increased cost of housing, and so we really need to address that.
Appreciate that, Mike. Roy?
I actually agree with Mike here, and I'd like to elaborate a little bit more on the levels and the different demographics of individuals that are homeless. And we really need to understand that there are different demographics of homeless individuals in our community, and understanding where they're at and what services they're aware of or not aware of, and really meeting them where they are, and making sure that the housing element is something that is prioritized for people who have been part of our community for longer than, say, somebody who hasn't. So making sure that if somebody's been homeless in our community, whether you're a single mom or a single dad or a family, making sure that we prioritize these services and affordable housing potentials for those individuals, and make sure that we address this problem of homelessness in our community with a real altruistic approach.
Thank you, Roy. To close the program, we will hear closing statements from each candidate. Mike Wilson, your closing statement, please.
Well, I'd like to thank KEET-TV and League of Women Voters. This was really a great forum, and it's just, it's good to be here. I want to emphasize from my perspective that I love this job. The reason I love it is because I love this community. I love the community, I love the people in it, I love the place, I love the people I work with. It's just so unique and interesting. Are there huge challenges? Are there days that are just, you know, very challenging? Yes, it is for everybody. But this is the place I want to be. These are the people I believe in. I want to let you know too that I'm available. Come talk to me anytime. Call, email, and just be a part of local government. It's important, and we need to be all a part of it. And I'm a KEET member, and I encourage you to be a KEET member as well.
Thank you, Mike. Roy Gomez Jr., your closing statement?
Well, I really appreciate this forum. I think Mike, and we have a lot of similar issues and similar perspectives on things, and I appreciate that. And I think one of the main important things for me is to build consensus with my community and my constituents, which I've been doing on this campaign trail, and I won't stop on any given issue moving forward if elected. I want to reach out and make sure that people are heard. If they don't have the time to make it to a Board of Supervisors meeting, I want to govern for the majority of our constituency, not for a party, not for my friends, not for any given agenda. I'm here to be as diplomatic and hopefully represent the majority of our constituency. And we're blessed as representatives that we don't live in a community that houses hundreds of thousands of people. We can actually gain consensus and govern for the majority.
This concludes tonight's program. I'd like to thank KEET-TV for airing this forum, and KEET-TV will be airing one more candidate forum on this coming Wednesday, February 14th, for Board of Supervisors, District 1.